Okay.
I'll start it right here. Yeah, so welcome everyone and welcome Barbara. This is our third, I think, yeah, third live Meet the Trainers. So today's Friday, July 7th in the US and Saturday, July 8th in Bali. So today we're so excited to have our certified trainer Barbara from the United States. She'll be running the Bali IIT from October 20th. She'll be training in the Bali IIT from October 24th to November 2nd. I'll let her introduce herself in just a second, but just a couple housekeeping things. My name is Val, as some of you know, and I'm the local organizer in beautiful Bali. So this is our third Meet the Trainers, and we do these to give you an opportunity to get some practice and training, and we also do it to help build connection and community. And hopefully, if you've attended all, you get to meet all the trainers and the support trainers. We had 3 support trainers, I think, last week. So I'm just so glad to see all of you guys that showed up today. Please feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat. So also remember, we're recording this event and we'll post it on our social media. So please, be aware that your image and voice will be recorded. So if you choose to turn on your camera or speak on the Zoom call, if you do not consent, please just turn off your camera. You can change your name and don't speak during the call. You can still use the chat to interact. So, all right, finally, welcome Barbara. Barbara has been a long time Bali lover and Bali IIT trainer. I was a participant myself, and I had the privilege of being part of many of her trainings at the IIT. And sometimes some of the other trainings she would run in Bali on some of her trips. I'll also pitch her daily meditation, which I love. I love her daily meditation that she does. She's on the WhatsApp. If you guys want, you can let me know or let her know at the end, and she can add you to that chat. It's just such a wonderful practice every day. She's so, every day she shows up at, I think it's 6 a.m. for you, sometimes 5 a.m. if you're traveling, sometimes yeah, not such good hours for you, but you're still there, showing up every day. And it's just such a beautiful practice. So, all right, that's it for me. So, Barbara, please tell us about yourself a little bit.
Oh my. I'm never sure what to say. So how about does anybody have any questions about me? I don't want to share something about me that is kind of boring for you. That's kind of my thing. I don't, like taking responsibility for the content that you're receiving. Is there anything in particular you'd like to know about me or?
I would like to know. So, what is your connection with Bali? I know you have a very strong connection with Bali.
Yeah. Wow, when I was living in Japan, I visited Bali, and it's a very, very long story with getting lost and renting a motorcycle and on top of a volcano, but I ended up having a baby there and building a house there and have a huge extended family. I didn't realize it at the time, but I stumbled across a community that really doesn't always welcome outsiders. But for some reason, I had went in the back door somehow, and I was the only foreigner living up on this particular volcano. And so I'm still, I still visit he's my ex-husband now, and I still am very close to his kids and all of the aunts and uncles in this huge um, world. That was God, probably 30, 40 years ago. So I've stayed a very, very strong connection to the area. And let me see here.
And we have one more question from Isabel.
Yeah.
So,
What are
yeah.
two questions, right? What are some challenges with NVC you still have? Oh boy, I love that question. Um, I just discovered a challenge the other day that I had. More I learn about brain is, did anybody who knows who Jill Bolte Taylor is? She did Stroke of Insight. She's a neurologist, and she kind of maps out the brain, and she noticed that there's this I mean, we all that there's different parts of the brain, and we have sort of different characters that are sort of part of us. And when I am in my sort of fix it mode, um, noticing that and making sure that I'm not giving empathy from that place. I very much want to contribute, so I have to be careful when I'm noticing that I'm empathizing with somebody. Am I empathizing because I'd like for them to change? That I'm uncomfortable with their discomfort. So I sort of notice my body, what's going on in my body is like, am I comfortable just being here with this person and their discomfort? Then I'm in a much more spacious, more kind of enlightened part of my brain. But if I'm kind of uncomfortable with the way they are and want to change them, even wanting to help them, the energy is not gonna, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for anybody. The person's not gonna enjoy it, and I'm not gonna enjoy it. So just being very, very careful, because in the beginning, this was so magic that I could guess somebody's needs and they could shift. And I don't want to do it to shift them. I want it to connect with them and to be there present for them without any judgment of them. And that's part of actually the loving kindness meditation that I lead in the morning. It's more of almost like a beauty of needs. That Robert Gonzalez was one of my main teachers since the beginning of my NVC journey, and very much connected with, like, we need to cultivate these needs within us and not depend on others necessarily for um, for everybody meeting their needs. So very new to NVC, do just figuring it out. Not sure. Could you explain more about that? What is do just figuring it out? I'm not getting it. And if you
You're
could unmute.
muted. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It was more of just a statement. I wasn't, I thought that was a general question that somebody was asking. So, uh, yeah, I'm very new to NVC. Actually
Oh,
just took one single session
I
and,
see. So you
but
were
I am
actually
interested
answering
in,
Isabel's question.
huh?
You were answering Isabel's question there, that
Yeah.
you're just figuring it out. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying that. I was answering that question too. Yeah, if you're new to
It was
NVC,
for you.
oh, oh my God, I learn more about myself every day from you learning using this practice. So welcome to an
Mm,
amazing practice,
thank
and
you.
it's like taking um, the red pill in the Matrix. You can't turn back. Your life will never be the same once you learn how powerful this practice is. It changes
Mm,
you really, really deeply, I believe.
mm,
I and that I guess that's about it. It was really through my son that I decided that it was through his drug and alcohol rehab counselor that that they, he listened to the way I was speaking, the way he was speaking. He's like, you want to really check out this guy Marshall Rosenberg, and he was absolutely right. I was in totally in shame and blame, and was not creating any connection with him at all. Um, so, and then I started speaking
mm.
differently to him, and it was shocking. Lovely. So any other questions before I sort of go into a little bit of the content that I wanted to do today? Um, yeah, good. So let's go ahead and start. Um, that a topic that I'm often asked if I can present on is, let me see if I can bring up something here. Um, is how do you work with anger? How to uh, and it's very complex. It's a very complicated emotion, sort of when the topic of anger comes up, there's actually three different ways that you need to I teach in working with it. The first is being open to your body and feeling into your body and what's going on in there every step of the way. That is so incredibly helpful. And in service of that, the first step was becoming familiar with your own fear, name and connect with your feelings, and figuring out what they are and notice the relationship with the person. Um, if they're angry with you and you're angry with them, is there a one up? Is there a sense of being unequal? Um, Oftentimes there's a if you're afraid of somebody's anger, you feel like you're in a down position. You're less than. And if you're the person that's angry, there's this superiority. So notice if you're not really meeting the person head on, and that's something to explore. Um, but today in particular, I'd like to sort of explore space shifting with you. It's being able to move out of the way of people's anger and not taking it personally. And then that'll give you a little bit more space to give yourself self empathy, which is essential whenever you're working with um, expressing your anger. But even before that is being able to meet people that are angry where they are, to be able to hold on to yourself with tenderness. Um, so before we explore what it's like in our body for somebody to be angry at us, which could bring up fear, right? Um, Fear of others' reactivity is often a struggle for people. So when we're afraid of somebody else's reactivity or we're afraid that we're going to be reactive ourselves, we often want to feel safe. So let's make sure before we do any exercises that we um, feel where you are in space, feel where your body is in space. Look above you, look below you, to the side, look over your shoulders. Breathe in, breathe out. Remember a time that you felt safe. You can actually hold your hand on your heart as a giver or receiver. You can even hold your own hand. Sometimes holding your own hand can help you feel safe. Often around anger, we don't feel safe. And right now, before even exploring fear of others' reactivity, I want you to be able to settle your own nervous system, to be able to come back to your breath, to name that you're scared, to notice that it's okay to be scared, and find a sense of safety. What does it feel like to be safe, to feel safe? What's coming up for people so far? Anybody like to share of how safety feels in their body? Are they able to settle their body, or does it even make you anxious just talking about safety? Well,
Yeah, I could really feel in my body, like it's like a settlement, like in my, like close to my heart, right? Like it's not grounded in my tummy, but it's grounded like around my heart, like a little bubble protecting, and like a shield, and just like a relief around the I guess the diaphragm. That's where I feel it.
Thank you so much. Um, Resonating with that for sure. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share around how safety feels in their body? Everybody's sharing. It felt steady and dependable. You can depend on. That's fantastic. It's so great to be able to access that when there's you're surrounded by people or there's somebody having a real strong reaction around you.
I feel very safe in my body, Barbara. I feel very safe in my body, and I feel just grateful to get to know the NVC.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That has felt, yeah, I don't know about you, but when people describe their sense of safety, I can feel it in my body too. It's like, oh yeah, that for sure. Does anybody else have that resonance when people talk about the sense of safety or sense of body sensation? Um, and unfortunately, it's the same thing with anger. When somebody's really, really keyed up, we tend to, to pick up on that, and it's emotion that's really hard to be with. So being able to say, okay, in this moment, I'm safe. This person is not going to hurt me, which is, it's important actually to differentiate. Are we actually talking about physical safety here? Because it could be that you're in the situation that you're not physically safe and that you do need to get yourself out of there. So get support in figuring out what you have to do, as if you are actually your physical safety is being threatened in any way. That's really, really important to mention. Most of the time when I hear people say that I don't feel safe, it's usually sort of an emotional safety. They're not feeling settled in their own body around another person. Um, they don't feel safe emotionally. So when that happens, questioning your thoughts and naming your experience is really important. Your experiences are real, your emotions are real. Oftentimes, your thoughts around the other person are you can explore them, and we'll talk about that more at another time, how to differentiate what is actually going on with an observation to something that we're imagining, probably from a very young part. Usually when we're talking about anger, um, I've found that it's coming from a very young part of ourselves. um, it goes way, way back. Has anybody heard the expression, if it's hysterical, it's historical? Usually, the stronger the emotion, the further back it goes in our experiencing. It usually goes way, way back to our childhood. Let me just check. Um, just checking the chat again. So, a way of of getting intimate with our body when we're afraid, um, is this exercise that I just love. It's so much better to do in person, and I figured out a way to do it here online. Um, I'm wondering if um, we could go into breakout rooms and do this, or should we just stay in the large group and see if we can do it. Let me see if we can do it. And I guess it's not that large of a group. It's more than the 2 people that there'd be in the breakout room. Let's see if we can do this. So you can be the experiencer, and I'll be the person that's partnered with you. And I want you to, I'm going to stand. Let's see here. Okay, so you can see me, right? And I know that this is an old computer, so the sound is awful. So if you can't hear me, tell me to speak up. So so notice your body is settled in your body, and I am going to get closer to you and notice how your body feels as I move closer. And at any time you want me to stop, just hold your hand up and I'll stop. And then it'll give you time to get resettled again. Everybody ready? No one's asking me to stop yet. Okay, good. Let me know when I can go again. Maybe I can't go again.
Testing, testing, testing.
We can hear you, Cheryl. Can you hear us? We're doing an exercise. Please join us. Okay, that's enough. I don't have to get all that closer. It's a little bit. Can anybody describe what their sensations are when I came towards you? How did it feel as a body sensation?
Well, I think the fact that you're you're on a screen, there's probably something a lot less threatening. It's almost even kind of funny in a way, because I think if I was in the same room, yeah, I would not be comfortable with you getting into my space. But on a computer screen, and I'm on a small tablet, so you're just small. Didn't feel threatening.
Didn't feel threatening to you. Okay.
No.
And I didn't, and I could have gotten a little bit closer and maybe stimulated that in you, but I'm glad that I didn't. Wait, 2 people being stimulated is enough. Val or Chinky, that you were willing to describe your body sensations? If not, it's okay.
Yeah, for me, it felt a little bit like anxiety, actually. Where I feel safe, that's where it was coming, right? It's like, it was like, it's a bit much, right? Right, exactly in that space I was describing, the diaphragm. It's a little bit of anxiety, like nervousness. And then when you smiled, you waited, and then you smiled, and relax again. Because you're like, can I move forward? And you smiled, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I did that unconsciously.
Yeah.
It's a way of soothing people. We smile to soothe people, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you noticed that. I'm so glad you noticed that. Jinky, are you willing to share anything or not really? Okay.
It's okay. At first it didn't feel anything, but your second try when you move closer to the screen, it felt like my personal space was being invaded. It was like you're entering. So feelings of being defensive, like, hey, wait, even if it's on screen, it's like you're too near. That's how I felt. So my body was also, I felt the body also was a bit alert.
Nice.
That's
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's it. That alert. Like, okay, I pay attention. This could, yeah. And even though I, like somebody mentioned, it's kind of comical that, on a computer screen, what am I afraid of? But my experience is when I tried this with somebody on a computer screen is like, I can still feel it. I can still feel that, like that alertness, like what's going on here. So let's try something else. And this is something that we can do in conversations, but let's try again a physical representation of it, because that's very much what it feels like with anger, right? People are kind of coming into our space and coming and like, and, you're kind of backing away when people are like, "Brr, brr, 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 brr." So let's try something. And I am very excited about this actually. This time, I'm going to go from the same distance. This time, if you start to feel any anxiety at all, move out of my way. Like physically, like move, like if you were coming at me, I would kind of go like this. You want to try it? You understand, or do you need more explanation? You got it? Okay, good. Can you tell I'm excited? I'll try not to smile. Perfect. Thank you. So, how did it feel any different? Did it shift anything when you moved out of the, like, total, really even off the screen? I guess even if people weren't feeling anxiety, I could have asked them to try that. See if it feels any different when I'm coming, and then to move away from the screen.
Yeah, for me, it didn't really help actually. It was like, yeah, it was like I was moving out. Like I really need to be off completely, which I
Right.
wasn't doing. And then I'm still watching too.
Uh,
So like it didn't, I mean, when I moved out completely, yes, but
uh,
just a little bit was not enough.
yeah, but moving away completely, it's like,
Yes,
yeah,
it was okay.
it didn't impact you.
For me, it was like instinctual. It was like when you were doing that, and I guess knowing that I had the option to move away, it wasn't I was directly telling my body to move, but when you were getting nearer, it was just like a reaction that I was just moving away.
Right, right. Your
That's
body
all.
just wanted to kind of move away from this coming towards you like this. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else have an experience you'd like to share? So the idea of this is when we are afraid of others' reactivity, others' anger, is to even visualize yourself not in front of the person, that you are not the object of this person's anger. And if it's historical, you have very little to do about it. It's you can say the words, don't take it personally, but your body reacts. So it's important to be able to move out of the line of fire, like even emotionally, like putting yourself in a safe place where you cannot be affected by the person's anger. Um, and I found that incredibly helpful, um, to focus on my internal experience, what's going on inside me, and not so much uh, of like what's being triggered in my childhood experiences. Whatever there's somebody's is angry, there again, there's it's very complicated emotion. A lot's going on for them, but there also a lot's going on for you too, um, based on your experiences in your childhood when you were helpless and you couldn't move out of the way. So I find this practice just really very, very empowering. Like even if I get a text and it hurts, I can sort of like visualize not letting it land on me. I can let the energy go and not affect me. It takes practice. Um, and I encourage you to give it a try, to experiment with first of all, not taking something personally. Um, again, it's easy to say those words to yourself, but a lot harder to do. So until you can actually come to that much more cerebral, like, this is nothing to do with me, take care of yourself, get yourself settled, and put yourself, I mean, physically, you can kind of move to the side from the person, but you can actually visualize yourself and not in front of them. You can visualize yourself off to the side and like stand, like you could be sitting there while somebody's expressing themselves and not giving you room to express yourself at all. And you can actually imagine yourself out, out of direct fire from their anger. Of course, you can always leave the room as well. And if you trust the person and you do want to create connection with them, leaving the room might be a good strategy for taking care of yourself, um, and then talking to the person later. And if you do trust the person, you may want to just stay, but visualize yourself safe and off to the side, not directly in front of them. How is all that to hear? This is a lot more, a lot more talking, and a lot. And I work a lot with the body in my workshops, and there was spent a lot more time experiencing actually what is going on in our bodies. But how is this to hear, to talk about, to imagine? Are you excited about practicing it or not really? Oh, and Val has something to share.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just trying to feel what you're saying. Yeah, like I'm having like I'm trying to picture like someone. I mean, I do have like a couple people in my life that are yellers, and so I'm trying to imagine like when they're doing it, like okay, they're like face like I have one person in particular that just kind of just rages. So I mean, like I'm trying to visualize maybe his words like flying by me, right?
Exactly.
Right? Something like that, right? Like,
Exactly.
okay, because I'm seeing I'm thinking, okay, how do I do that physically, right? Because he's right there and following me and screaming, and so how do I do that, right?
Yeah. Visualizing the words just going by like
Mm,
just and while he's doing that, I mean, you're going to be able to hear what's going on with them. Spend that entire time soothing yourself, saying, "Oh, not." I mean, this is what I have said to myself when my son was raging at me at a certain period. um, is like, oh, this is not what you were expecting when you saw him or you talked to him on the phone. Oh my God, this is not the relationship you want with him. This is You were hoping for some gratitude. You were hoping for, him to say how much he appreciates you, and this really sucks. I mean, like things like that I would say to myself on the inside. And when somebody's yelling, it gives you plenty of time for self-compassion. I found that I can totally soothe myself if somebody's engaged in somebody I love. I'm not going to put up with it for somebody I don't want to connect with, but I can soothe myself while being present while they rage. And it's all about choice though. So give it a try and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, super
Anybody?
helpful. Thanks. Yeah,
Oh,
because I
good.
shut down, right? Like, because I'm like in protective mode. I'm just like, okay, and just trying to stay. But so I would love to try that, right? Just
And you don't have
self-empathy.
to shut down. You can connect with like, wow, that, just letting the words go by. Because they really do have very little to do with you. You stimulated it, but the stronger the reaction, the more likely that they're in a lot of pain and you have nothing to do with it. Very little to do with it.
Thank you. Super helpful.
Good. Anybody else have any questions or?
I think that I don't even think that it has to be a rage thing. I think people can be hurtful and calm voices, and even then you can still, sort of dodge it. But it's trickier because if it's not loud and raging, it's sometimes it can catch you off guard, and then you don't, it might hit you before you even realize it to prepare or dodge the bullet.
Yeah, it might hit you. And when it does hit you, can you take it and like imagining just like sending it away? Feeling where it hits you and it's like, oh, do I need this? you know and it depends on how triggered you are. If you're super triggered, like Val says, she just goes into this freeze and becoming just finding a little bit more space in that freeze
Mm.
is this can be helpful to visualize that this is not hitting you, and if it does, like maybe peeling it off depending on how it feels. um, but working with your body in that way is can be really, really super powerful. So let's settle ourselves again, and we're in a safe space. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say. No, we're in a safe spot. Come back to your breath, come back to your body, and come back to your needs. Um, those, if you can remember those three things, and when you're in conflict, or when something's stimulating you, notice that you're freezing or you're whiting out, and then just feel your breath. And some people hold their breath when they're in that. So coming back to really allowing yourself to breathe. Again, coming back to your body sensations. Do you feel a tightness in your stomach? Do you feel a tension in your chest? Describe them to yourself. And then needs. Like I was saying, when I was being yelled at by my son, it's like, oh man, gratitude would feel really good right now. I love it when he expresses gratitude towards me. And this is like an internal thing. I don't start laughing and say, boy, I sure would like you to give me gratitude. This is an internal caring process that I do when stimulated. So I would like for you to have that to come back to, just those three things. Come back to your breath, caring for yourself, um, describing your body sensations, and what are you really longing for right now? What are your needs? So there is a lot more to that, but this is just a little bit a taste. I did want to say that at this moment, there's quite a few classes that I'll be presenting in Bali. I'm really curious if anybody's interested in any of these, or and if not, I'll write down some other topics. Um, I'm laughing because I sent a list to Eric, and he made up a list of very, very funny topics. Um, what is, if it's one topic for a class, he said, if you're bored, it's your own damn fault. Um, I probably won't teach that class. Embodied self-empathy using the four voices is one class that I'd like to teach. That's people are aware of like the four chairs, right? So this is really bringing the four chairs to what is the embodiment of each chair? What is each chair feeling? And how to use that as a way of coming back to self-empathy when you're in a challenging situation. You have a question about that one, Val? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe explain the four chairs, because we do have, a couple people maybe that don't know what that is.
Sure. So the first is like, for example, I'll use that situation with my son. I went through the process when he was yelling at me. Um, it it I paid his rent, and he called me and started yelling at me. And so the first chair, that's the observation. And most people say, and what are you not telling us about this story? Well, there is an important thing I'm leaving out. But so that's the observation. And the first thing that came up for me is this. My whole body contracted. And I was like, you little shit. After all I've done for you. Has any parent ever said that? After all I've done for you. This is internally. I'm not saying all of this, but I'm connecting with what's going on in my stomach and my chest, that blaming him is like the first chair or the first choice, or the first noticing the position that our body's in. This is like the position that my body was in internally was this, like that, just blaming him, like, oh. And then after I sat with that for a while, I went into the second chair, which was, oh God, what a terrible mother I am, blaming myself. So I went from this to this, or, like, blaming myself and saying, I cannot believe I created a monster. I never should have been nice to him. I should have been mean to him like my mother, or something like that. I was, I went into this blaming myself. And then you're in self-blame if your whole body's like, oh, it's like a collapsed state. So exploring that body position inside of yourself. Again, none of this is verbalized. This is when you're interacting, a way of giving yourself self-empathy. And the third is feeling into my own feelings and needs. And he gave me a long time to sit with that, going back and forth between blaming him and then blaming myself, to get into that, what I mentioned before, of like, oh, I really wanted gratitude, and I wanted connection. That's why I paid his rent. I wanted us to have a wonderful relationship and have a nice connection, and fun together. Yeah. Oh, okay. And just sort of giving myself compassion. That's the third chair, is self-compassion, feeling into your own feelings and needs. And the fourth was, and you literally open up to this. It's like, well, what's going on with him? And there's something that's really important to him. And I could sit there, and so the third chair, the third body position when you're doing self-empathy, is like this, like, oh, honey, you just wanted a little gratitude, didn't you? It was sort of like that, just like, oh, just kind of loving myself up a little bit internally. And I did that long enough that I naturally just became curious. It was like, I wonder what's going on. I guess something's going on with him. So I thought about it as like, oh, the note that I put with the check. Oh, okay. Um, and then I guessed into what was going on with him. And then, and this is all like the self-empathy process, right? The whole internal self-empathy process before you even open your mouth. And then at that point, I could ask him if it's okay, if I could share something. So Lisa, do you have a comment?
Yeah. I just want to recap you say because I need to understand what you say.
Okay.
And I heard you say, if I feel the anger, we can use the 4 years like 4 chair. And the one chair is blame others, and the second chair is blame myself. The third chair is self-empathy, and the fourth chair is empathy others.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my first to hear about when you're anxious, you can use the 4 chairs. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Well, you can use it for self-empathy. And I use it to track where I am. I could see what my body is feeling to see where I am in that process. If I feel this contraction, and like I'm going to spring and like bite their head off, is that, oh, he must be in the first chair. And then I know, often with like you probably seen this too, we jump back and forth. So a lot of people use this for expression, like which chair am I going to be expressing from? And I use it for self-empathy and for connecting with my body. And it's very, very helpful for that. But thank you for the recap. I love that, Lisa.
Yeah. So I heard you say the first and the second chair, you sit there is you can brand yourself, but you to feel what your body association. And the second chair, you complain to yourself, and another same time you feel what's your body sensation in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
yeah, the body sensation is just such a good guide for me because oftentimes when we're triggered, we don't have access to the higher thinking, but we do have access to like, I can notice like, oh yeah, I'm like this.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I learned from this, and after if I do the full chair, I will put the body sensation in the 1 and the 2 chairs.
You can even symbolize it like this one is the first chair, the second chair is this, like, the third chair is like, oh, like this. And then the fourth chair is you can open your arms wide. You can't see it here, but actually I use the body to actually feel the way that I want to feel. If I'm having trouble empathizing with somebody, I can open my arms wide like this and open up my chest. And it's a lot easier for me to empathize with the person. If I'm collapsed, I'm going to be in more protective state. But if I notice that my body is more open, it's much easier for me to be open to their thinking.
Yeah, I heard you say not only the 2 chairs to sense your body, and the 4 chairs you can sensation your body. You can feel the change. Your body sensation is not the same. You can feel what kind, which chair your body sensation is who's like, what like does, yeah.
I love that. I love that reflection, Lisa, and absolutely. And they can feel it too. I mean, when I was really open and wanted to like check in with him, you know, at first he was like, I said, can I say something? I just wanted, and he's just like, uh, maybe, you know, because, you know, the habit was for like, okay, you've got, "Arr," and then I jump in and go, "Arr, arr, 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 arr," like, you know, no, that's not going to work. So, and then when I made a guess, he just absolutely melted. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
So hopefully you'll find that. So that's, let's see, there's also, and I go through, I'll do a whole class on intimacy with embodied fear. The first step in working with anger is to work with your fears. The second step in working with anger is curiosity, is to be curious about what's going on with them. And then a whole class, 2 hours on the third step is working with anger, expressing myself when I'm in the fire. So there's this myth in NVC, oh, I have to like totally calm down and be chill before I express myself. And it's like, no, that's not true. You can express yourself when you are angry, and there's certain ways of doing that that increases your chances of being heard. So one of my favorite classes I'll actually be teaching it online here and in person, a hybrid here, is interrupting from boredom to bliss and connection. I don't know if anybody has been in the situation where they're with somebody that just talks on and on and on and on and on. You're waiting for to get a word in edgewise, right? So this is how to interrupt in a kind way. There's a myth that you shouldn't interrupt people when they're talking. You should just listen. And I don't believe that. So we work on interrupting with kindness. It changed my life when I started interrupting from an NVC perspective. A class on addiction. I did one time empathizing, not validating. One time I did a class on addiction that we actually did a role play with the addiction, and that can be very, very powerful. So how to be with people, our loved ones, for, you know, alcoholics, addicts, people have eating issues, or even if we have our own addictions, how do we work with them with NVC? And doing role plays and exploring them from different angles. It really depends on who shows up between what we do with that class. But given my background, I can't miss a chance for not doing a class on addiction. During the social change day, a lot of people really like doing large groups. I'm not a large group person. I prefer the smaller groups. So when they're doing a big group, the other trainers, I'll probably be doing smaller groups, smaller classes. One is navigating power and choice using NVC. And then the other class will be mindfulness, social change, and nonviolent communication. How to use mindfulness when we're an NVC, when we want to change the world. We want to bring our love to the world. There's a day on conflict resolution, and I'd like to do the illusion of conflicting needs. Then it's an internal conflict resolution. That should I stay or should I go? Remember that Clash song. On the gratitude day, I will probably offer a class I love to teach called The Aliveness of Death, exploring death with nonviolent communication. It's a subject that not very many people talk about, not many people explore it with NVC, and it's an important part of our lives. And it's such a great chance to really look at the needs behind a lot of our reactivity around death and make some different choices. Sex, lies in NVC. Again, what what a trigger to talk about sex, particularly with our people that we love the most. It's really, really hard. So to be able to talk about sex, to explore our needs around sex, to express our needs around sex, to be comfortable with our bodies again, and our needs, and to be honest with ourselves. And then probably our transition home. A lot of people say, what is it that's keeping me from speaking? I hear I've learned this NVC, and why aren't I asking for what I want? Why am I silent? So I'll do something like the violence is silence. What is it that's keeping me from asking for what I want? So that's a little bit of a taste. Actually, I wasn't going to do this until I made the mistake of a friend of mine saying, "Oh, well, I think it was a typo," and it's like, oh, that would be a good thing to share during the Meet the Trainer and see if anybody has any questions about any of those topics, any other topics. I thought of another class talking to somebody on the financial aid circuit. She's also does coaching, and I said, oh, maybe I should do a class on combining NVC and coaching. And she went, oh yeah, do that. We'll see if she gets her financial aid award. But do you have any NVC questions, any class questions, any IIT questions, or is it time to pass it to the organizer for questions about the IIT itself? Oh, Lisa, yes, please. You're muted, honey.
I have another question, not about the topic is anger, but I'm confused one topic. Did you learn from the Marshall directory?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I heard from another senior trainer. She did not disagree to mediation, 就是 mediation about this. She thought that is not Marshall want to deliver, so she not disagree. But I'm so wondering, that's a different. Do you mean what my? Do you understand what I mean?
Said, like the names of my classes, like for example, the one that I call Sex Lives at NVC, Marshall called How to Have Bad Sex. And that was the name of that class. So he called them different things, and it's basically the same information.
Can you type the words in the chat?
The name of Marshall's workshop was How to Have Bad Sex. That was his workshop. I called it a little bit something.
Oh, yeah.
And that's fine, Stacy. Thanks so much for joining us. I love it that you came. And oh, she's gone. Yeah, anything else, Lisa? Because yeah, there is a lot of controversy around, like, is this the real Marshall Rosenberg? And it's going to come a little bit differently through all of us, but I quote him all the time. I really do think the essence of his work is extraordinary. Did that answer your question, or is it getting closer? Cool. Val, were you the next one with your hand raised, right?
Yes, thank you. You talked about the, oh my God, these classes sound great. I just can't wait to be there. Thanks for giving us a little bit of the classes. I mean, I'm interested in all, of course, and then I get into the fear of missing out, that FOMO thing, right? That because so many classes are so great. But anyway, thanks for sharing that. But also, I was wondering about the interrupting class. You mentioned you're going to teach it online. So is that at the fundraiser event that you're talking about? I should probably
Oh,
mention
no,
that.
actually, I got a request for the violence of silence at the fundraiser.
Ah,
So
what about the interrupting? You said you were going to teach it online too.
yeah, I'll be teaching that the third Sunday in July. that one is at 1 o'clock in the morning for you,
Oh,
if
okay.
you want to come live.
Uh,
You'll be just going to bed by then if I know you. You're a late stayer, not staying upper.
Okay, maybe I'll figure it out. But maybe
It'll
other
be
people
recorded,
can.
but recordings are never as good as live. They
Yes,
really
yes, yes. You'll teach it at Bali IIT as well.
definitely teach it there.
Oh,
Yeah.
great, great, great. Okay. Sounds like a great class. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. And do I say your name right, Chinky? Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so many interesting classes, excited for it. But earlier you were talking about the four chairs and then about self-empathy. So I just wanted to ask, how do you differentiate self-compassion and self-empathy? Because usually I hear about self-compassion, but I don't, self-empathy is not as common. So I'm interested to know what's the difference.
I am not one to sort of like people say, what's the difference between happiness and joy? I mean, a lot of people have different definitions of compassion and empathy, and they get very very attached to their definition. Um, they have a slightly different flavor. Empathy, when I give myself empathy, it's more of like, um, yeah, maybe guessing my feelings and needs, and self-compassion, I think of just like, bathing myself with love and acceptance, like a warm kind of like, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you said that you're regretting, it's fine. However, whatever pain you're in, I'm with you here. It's kind of a sense of presence, and empathy is I'll much more likely guess of like, oh, you really wanted your son to express appreciation, didn't you? And compassion for me would look like, oh, honey, this really sucks, doesn't it? Oh, dear. Oh, yeah, this is this a willingness to be with myself in the fire. It seems like a real um, a way to accompany myself, just with deep presence and love. But that's the way I hold it, and I'm sure every other trainer holds it in a different way. Does that help, Chinky? Or
Yes, it did. It made it clearer in my understanding. It's like self-empathy is also understanding yourself or accepting how you are feeling without any judgment. Oh, you're feeling this way. But it's quite helpful because we always say, let's empathize with others. So self-empathy resonated with me because it's one of the first times I heard it. That's why I was asking. So thank you for that.
sure. And actually, let me put my WhatsApp number in the chat. Lisa sort of caught the maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I first started this morning meditation with a friend of mine, Sui Fa. I think it's a mutual friend. I think that a couple people of you know. And we started just for 6 weeks uh, a, um, a compassion practice every day, and it's I kind of kept it up. And on the East Coast at 6 in the morning every day, in Bali at 6 in the evening every day, and I guess most of you are probably someplace in between. But let me put my WhatsApp number, and just uh, I can't add you with just regular text, but if you send me a WhatsApp and say, "Hey, my name is blah blah. I just saw you um, in the Meet the Trainer event," I'll add you to the group. And what you'll do is then you'll get a daily Zoom link. And if you don't feel like waking up at that time, or you're doing something, you'd rather do something else at that time, I'll send a recording and then a YouTube video. +1 is for 9, 1986, and it's free. It's why not, right? You're welcome. It's a, I tell you, when people say, "How could you do it every day?" Because I benefit from it so much. That's how I can do it every day. I mean, I'm so much kinder to myself when I give myself 10 minutes of compassion every day. Imagine that. And then it ends up that I'm kinder to other people as well. That's usually how it works. We're usually just projecting our own inner critic on somebody else, and we got to take care of that little tender part of ourselves, right? Any other questions before I turn it over to Val? Let me just turn it over to Val anyway, and you can, if questions come up for either one of us, you can chime into the chat or just verbalize them. I'm so excited that you all came. I really am enjoying this. I don't know if you could tell I'm enjoying it, but I really am.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Yeah, I mean, the Q&A is really for both of us, right? Anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's we're into it. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. It was so good. I miss not being not being next to you, right? Because it just brought back all these memories of just the wonderful workshops and every time you're in Bali, and yeah, it was yummy. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
to do that. Yeah, love it.
creating that. Thanks
I
for
hope
creating.
everyone, yeah, I hope everyone got as much out of it as I did. Yeah, sounds like they did. So we're here to answer any questions about the IIT or even question. I mean, it's questions for Barbara too. So whatever you guys need. All right. Well, I know we're working a lot with. Okay, there's a question for you in the chat. So a lot of people are asking me about nutrition. Nutrition. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to work hard on that because I can see there's some very restrictive allergy stuff going on. So I think, but we will deal with that with each person. And we have really beautiful ingredients in Bali. And I think Arma has been very good over the years adapting to all our needs with food. And so I think this may even, like all the requests I'm getting, may even take it to the next level. And so we'll be working on that. So yeah, that's I know that's a big deal for people. So I just wanted to say we're very mindful and aware of those needs. And we'll be working on that. And I think you have a question in there. Did you want to
Yeah,
answer
and
that publicly?
I know what you mean, Lisa. Yeah, the mindfulness and meditation is not, yeah, those words Marshall didn't use, but definitely is like it's what's going on in the here and now. That's what and it's like what is happening with me right now? What are my feelings and needs? What is the feelings and needs of the other person? So, and that is a kind of mindfulness. He didn't call it mindfulness, I don't think so, but he might have actually at the end of his life. But it was very, very important for him to come back to the present moment and only deal with what's happening in the here and now, and practicing mindfulness during I mean, people maybe did not like those words for that, but if people are resistant to that, just coming back to the here and now of what's going on. What do you feel in your body? What is the other person feeling and needing in this moment, to try to keep it very, very present. And for me, that's my mindfulness practice. That's certainly what Thich Nhat Hanh talks about. And then meditation itself, I mean, Robert Gonzalez is all about the beauty of needs, and so many other trainers as well is is doing guided meditation for yourself with the needs, feeling that that there is like no need met or unmet. It's a continuum that met or unmet, it turns into this beautiful interconnection, energetic kind of meditation that and he worked also directly with Marshall for years and years at IITs, and he was my main NVC trainer. That's how he's the one who got me into it. And um very much he didn't advocate meditating, but I do. And I think it really helps your NVC practice to do it. And that's not a, you're right, that is not a quote from Marshall. And I can tell you for experience, it really, really helps is to be able to calm your body and slow down and be aware of the present moment, to be able to self-soothe. Um, is that what you meant, Lisa? That kind of, yeah, there's a lot of words that are used that Marshall didn't use. Um, so let me see. So I think somebody said they have to go. Yes. Yes, thank you so much for coming. The tone, lilt, clarity, resonance. Oh, yes, me too. Thanks for coming, Isabel, and for all of you for coming. It's just so much fun when people show up. If it was just me and Val, we'd have fun too, but having you all here is just tremendous. It's just such a joy for me.
Yeah, thanks Isabel for coming. Thanks Barbara and Lisa for your questions. Very enlightening because I'm not such a follower of Marshall. I follow the trainer, so it's educated. I mean, it's educating for me to hear the history behind that. So thank you. So maybe I'll stop the recording unless does anybody have any other questions? I mean, we can sit here and chat, but maybe I'll just stop the recording. How does this sound for everyone? Is that all right?
Well, there's one thing that I wanted to say for people listening to the
Yes,
recording.
yes, yes.
Right now in my world, it's July 7th, and the early registration discount is coming up on the 10th. So even if you're not sure if you can come or not, we have like, I think, a record number of people applying for financial aid. But don't let that stop you from applying, and practice making requests, asking for what you want. I really, we of course can't give financial aid to everybody, but at least you will be saving your space and in opening up that possibility. I think I understood right. If you are denied the financial aid, though, I think that you might still be able to get the early register, if you, as long as you send your financial aid application before July 10th, you'll still have the option to get the early registration discount. So that I just found out that, and that's important information, I think. So yeah, so stop the recording, and I hope to see you all in Bali.